Hi Nate, hi Cyber. It's good to see both of you. Let me bring y'all in. One of these days, oh, there it goes. One of these days I'm gonna get it so it doesn't have that janky little transition where it shows looking for game capture. I'm just too lazy to figure out something to do with it. How are you all doing today? I hope you've had a lovely weekend, and I hope you're looking forward to a good week. I am doing pretty good. I've been kinda mellow today. Not particularly lazy, but I haven't really done much of anything. That makes it sound like I've just been lazy, but yeah, I don't know. I've just been taking it easy today. I'm kind of looking forward to this creepypasta. I've never read it before. It's called The Cave, but it was a pasta of the month on the Creepypasta wiki, and caves and monsters both sound pretty good in my book, so I'm looking forward to it. But how are you all doing? What have you been up to? Oh, you're sad, Cyber. What's going on? Your friend called you Russian? Well, that wasn't very nice of them. You're not Russian. Not that there's anything wrong with being Russian, but you're not, so they shouldn't call you that. I don't want to think today, you guys. It's a good thing it's just a narration stream, 'cause I don't have to put any of my brain cell to work. I can just read the words in front of me, although I guess that does need a little bit of brain cell functioning, but not too much. Although, when the brain cell is functioning, I still mess up, so you might be in trouble. We'll see. Even though you're learning the language. How far into learning it are you? Are you pretty comfortable conversing in Russian yet? Nate, you got to go to a wild party this weekend and we made a lot of friends. Yeah, I saw you mention that in the Discord. I'm glad you got to hang out with some like-minded people. Got to use a flamethrower to light a bonfire for s'mores last night, and then also got to chat about crazy locally written books that go off the walls in some certain details. Also got to go through an old missile silo that was remodeled and revamped to be like a Fallout vault. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Do you have any plans to hang out with any of the people you made friends with? Hopefully it's not just a one and done sort of thing and you get to hang out with them some more. Let's go ahead and get our story started, because it's gonna be a longer one. At least it looks like it's a longer one. You're likely going again not next week, but the week after's weekend, since Halloween will have you busy. Yeah, I would imagine so. I'm sure you've got some event or another planned for working on Halloween. Is Rachel doing anything? I don't know if she's too old for trick-or-treating at this point, but Maybe she's got some fun party or something going on. Let you bonk me? Oh my gosh, don't bonk me, Cyber. How dare? Why are you so mean to me? Hi, Brady. It's good to see you. Alright, let's get our story started. Okay, and this one is, I forgot who it was written by today. You're mean today, Cyber? Oh no, I'm gonna have to watch out. Good thing it's not a crowd control day. Oh, that does remind me. If you guys haven't seen on the server, yesterday's announcement had a lot of stuff that I went over about where the stream's going and some new stuff I'm gonna try doing with it. This week we're only gonna have 3 streams because one Halloween and then also Drambeak is coming next week, so I need to prepare for that. But we're gonna take a hiatus after this week, just a week off, and then when we come back I'm hoping to kind of overhaul a couple things. It's still gonna be very much the same stream, but I wanna do some things a little differently, so I kind of go over that in yesterday's announcement. Nate, many commissions for themed foods. Rachel's trick-or-treating is going shopping in November and we buy everything left over in bulk. Yeah, that's adult trick-or-treating. Now, who was this story written by? I looked at it right before stream and then I forgot. Alright, this is credited to Archfeared / Ethan 1 or Ethan I. I'm not sure. Ethan the First, maybe. And it is called The Cave. So let's put you back in your seats and get yourselves comfy, get a snack, do whatever you want to do to make this a pleasant stream for yourselves. And we'll get started. There we go. Bop. Okay. Hi, Foxroll. Good to see you. How are you doing today? Oh my gosh, you know what? I did not give you guys your hugs. Alright. I can't start the story until I've given you hugs. That was a close one. Alright, now get out of here. There. Derpy's starting off right with a hydrate. Give me just a sec. Doing the new customary greeting of hydrating before saying hi. All right. Hi, Derpy. Nate, Rachel also got to show off to some nerds and geeks about her architecture knowledge, things you taught her in culinary, and her video game intellect for many different and broad genres of tastes. She even got to geek out with Pikmin. Oh my gosh, I'm happy she had a fun time too. Glad she's making friends outside of her little group. Yeah, it's really hard to do also. The more friends she can have that she feels close to, the better. Especially in, high school age, you never know which friends are gonna stick around or not. So it's nice to, play around with some different friend groups. Alright. Let's get started with The Cave. Part 1. There were originally 9 of us scheduled for the spelunking expedition, but Murphy's Law dictated that 2 of the group had to pull out due to various reasons. It was a disappointment having fewer members to share in the experience, but then again, there were benefits. Less logistical problems, more space, and so on. I personally wasn't that affected by it. While most of us were close friends, I hadn't known those two too well. Our rendezvous was the cavern entrance, at the crack of dawn. I was the first one there, as usual. Those who knew me often remarked at my attention to punctuality. Slowly, the rest of the group arrived, parking their cars and unloading the equipment that we had organized between us. As the expedition leader, I had the emergency provisions on me: first aid kit, flare gun, GPS locator. It seemed quite odd that a flare gun would be taken into an underground location, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. We assembled at the cavern entrance. There was Jason, Alex, Karen, Samantha, Vincent, Ashley, and of course myself. Alex and I were experienced spelunkers, while the rest had varying skill levels. Moderate, which was Karen, Vincent, and Samantha. Poor, which was Jason. And a first-timer, which was Ashley. Normally, it was against my instinct to take a first-timer into an unexplored cave and in such a large group, but he had promised to obey every command I gave him and had agreed to carry the most cumbersome equipment on the safe parts of the trek. The cave loomed in front of us. It was typically dark, and rather foreboding. Not for the first time, I wondered why it was, according to every available record of local geological sites, unexplored. Perhaps it was the isolated location, or the fact that until recently there had been no way for vehicles to access it through the surrounding forest. "Are you sure it's all right?" Ashley nervously asked, shifting from foot to foot. His earlier bravado had deserted him. "Yes, you can't change your mind once we're in, so decide now," I said flatly, turning around without waiting for an answer. He'd make his own mind up without further input from me. The rest of the group followed me. After a few moments of apparent indecision, Ashley hurried in after the rest of us. Soon, the darkness swallowed us whole. Inside, the cave was quite larger than it appeared. It proceeded inwards for about 200 meters, and then sloped down quite quickly. As per usual, I ordered the group members to buddy up, a system in which the group divided into pairs and threes and were responsible for keeping together. Ashley and I were partners, given that I was the most experienced and he was the least. It wasn't as fun spelunking when you had to care for somebody else, but it was a necessary evil. Besides, he was a quick learner. Soon, the sunlight from the cave mouth faded. "Flares out, everybody," I ordered. One by one, the expedition members cracked the flares. As per local guidelines, each member carried 2 packs of 30 handheld flares. It may have been excessive, but the flares weren't very strong and only provided enough light for the immediate area around the user. I took a glow stick from my pack and wedged it into a rock beside me. Only I carried these because they were quite stronger than the flares, able to last up to 12 hours with diminishing light after 8. I would use them to mark our trail back up. Slowly, we continued down. The handheld flares lasted for 15 minutes on average, and soon we reached an edge. I ordered the group to stop 5 feet from the precipice, where the ground leveled out. As you may have noticed, I'm a stickler for safety measures, but not without good reason. I didn't want a death on my hands. "Ashley, crack a flare and throw it down," I said, watching to see how he did. Ashley withdrew a flare from his pack and lit it. Then, without moving, he tossed it forward, down the hole. I nodded in approval. He hadn't moved forward from the 5-meter guideline. I crept forward to the precipice and looked into the abyss. Then I saw it. Descending into the darkness, barely half a meter from the cliff edge, was what appeared to be a staircase. That's the end of part 1. So let me catch up on your chat a little bit. Nate, you even started a project of thinking. Oh my gosh, Nunes! Thank you. Also, hi. It's good to see you. I hope you're not staying up too late. I don't want you tired tomorrow morning. But thank you so much for subscribing with your Prime. That you only got one of those, so I appreciate it when you guys use it on me. But I hope you're having a wonderful day. Nate, you even started a project of thinking of video game themed meals every meal for every day of the week while we go through the mansion in Luigi's Mansion for GameCube and renovate it. That's kind of cool. I like that idea. It sounds really fun. Very nice, useful for many things. You'll go to bed in half an hour, don't worry. Okay, you better promise me, Nunes. Although, you might get wrapped up in the story, so I hope it doesn't end on a cliffhanger for you. There's always the VODs, but it sucks to just have to leave when it's, you're on the edge of your seat. But let's go ahead and put you back in your spots, and I will see you guys at the end of the next part to catch up on some chat. Boop. Part 2. The light of the flare made one thing quite clear. It wasn't a man-made staircase. At least it didn't look like one. It appeared to have been hewn out of the descending rock, meaning that the original cliff would have extended further into the cave. The stairs were rough and uneven, but it was close enough for government work, as the saying goes. "What is it?" one of the group members asked from behind me. "Looks like a natural staircase of sorts," I answered, distracted. I withdrew another glow stick from my bag and planted it at the top of the stairs. "Let's go." We descended cautiously, for caves are notoriously deceptive. Ahead of me, the darkness grew thicker. It seemed palpable, almost physical. As if my thoughts were true, the flares we held seemed to diminish in the face of the abyss. After 50 or so steps, I reached the bottom. That's when I heard the crack. It sounded like a gunshot, loud and sharp. I spun at the foot of the stairs. Behind me, Jason was tumbling roughly down the last few steps straight towards me. I spun out of the way and he crashed to the floor, moaning in agony. The rest of the group hurried towards me, concerned, as I bent to inspect the injury. It was obvious. His ankle was twisted at an unnatural angle, clearly broken. Jason's face had rapidly lost color. Karen, Vincent, grab him by the arms, careful, I said quietly, unwilling to exacerbate the situation by panicking. They picked him up slowly, his ankle dangling grotesquely beneath him. Something glinted under the crimson light of the flares. I knew it was bone. I reached into my pack, taking out 2 small batons and a white bandage. This is going to hurt, I warned. The caution was wasted on Jason anyway. He was half unconscious. I grabbed his ankle and twisted. His ankle cracked again. That roused Jason from his stupor. He screamed piercingly, loud enough to hurt my ears. Quickly, trying not to prolong his agony, I wound the bandage around the batons, which braced either side of his leg. The screaming stopped, but not because the pain had faded. He was unconscious. Take him up to the entrance of the cave and to the hospital. If he wakes, give him these painkillers, I told his helpers. Karen and Vincent nodded and began the arduous climb up to the surface, holding their unconscious ward. Shouldn't we go with them? I mean, his ankle was... Ashley began, but I cut him off. No, we came this far, and we're not gonna stop now. I want to investigate this cave to the end. Remember, I told you that you couldn't change your mind, I said sharply, taking out my anger at letting the accident happen under my leadership of him. Ashley, known as Ash to his friends, but I never used that, fell silent. I felt a fleeting sense of guilt at my attitude. I brushed it off and spun around. Already Jason and the others were out of view. Around the group, the darkness surrounded us like a malevolent entity. The landing we were on led further into the cave for quite a while, and we proceeded incident-free, thankfully. I marked our progress with the glow sticks at various intervals. Strangely, like the flares, they gave off less light the deeper we progressed. It began to unnerve me, and I could tell the others noticed it too. Alex and Samantha, who were incidentally brother and sister, fell a few steps behind us. Ashley, to my right, was silent. Finally, as the flares grew even dimmer, I saw something in the wall to my right. I called the diminished group over and cracked a new flare to provide extra light. It appeared to be some sort of carving in the wall. I studied it carefully. The scene depicted a few humanoid forms on the ground. A few scratches of red seemed to indicate wounds. Various pillars around them rose to the roof of the cavern. But that wasn't nearly the worst part. In front of the people, the victims, I now corrected myself, was a large figure. It may have had detail in the past, but only the outline remained. The body was scratched out. It was a disturbing scene. Then I looked beneath the scene and my eyes widened. It had a message. End of part 2. So let me get a quick drink of water. Make sure I stay hydrated. Nate, you'll post the meals you made later in the cafe. Might include your game plan for each. Ooh, yeah, that would be great, Nate. I'm really liking the pacing of this story so far. I feel like it's building up well enough while also giving us just enough that it doesn't feel like we're just waiting too long. If I recall, there are 7 parts to this. Alright, get back there and we'll continue. Part 3. The strange thing about the message was that it was in English. The carving looked entirely authentic, meaning that a caveman, if you'll pardon the pun, had created it. I found it impossible that the same person could have scrawled the 5 words below the picture. Behind me, Alex read it out loud. The Jackal and the Cave. How strange, he said. Indeed, that was the message, written entirely in capital. I dismissed the painting and turned back to the main path. It was obviously a hoax. There was no way a caveman could write in any script, let alone English. Probably some kid mucking around in days long past. But it still made me uneasy, regardless of what I assumed it to be. If it was a hoax, then why does it look so fucking authentic? Eventually, the 4 of us had had our fill of the Jackal in the Cave, and after Ashley had snapped a photo of it for a keepsake, we continued into the cavern. I was forced to light 2 flares at a time now to ward off the choking darkness. The diminishing effectiveness of the flares puzzled me. In all my time spelunking, I had never encountered anything like it. I wondered whether it was a defective bunch or some other reason. It had to have a logical, rational reason. Behind me, Alex and Samantha were still locked in conversation. I picked up snatches of the heated debate as we walked. They, like me, were still pondering the origin of the admittedly ominous cave drawing. I wished they'd drop it already, or at least quiet down. I looked to my right, saw nothing but a sloping cave wall, and looked away, back to the trail. I froze, and turned. There, among the rock that I had just glanced at, was another carving. I felt sick as I hurried over to it. The red glow of the flares flickered on the wall, dancing over the picture, making it look demonic under the sparse light. It depicted a scene much like the last, except there were only 2 bodies on the floor. The third was in mid-air, seemingly held by an appendage, not quite an arm, not quite a tentacle, from the titular Jackal. The pillars around the scene appeared again, except with small, indistinct etching on them. Like before, only the faint outline of the Jackal appeared, the rest of it having been scribbled or scratched, I couldn't tell which, out. Underneath it was another 5-word message, one that I read quickly and immediately wished I hadn't. "Go back. The Jackal waits," it said. I turned from the carving as the others moved in to get a good look and tried not to panic. The air felt thin and dry, much like the air in the Andes. I'd gone climbing there a few years ago and terrible things had happened, which explained my preference for underground rocks as opposed to aerial ones. But that's a story for another day and another time. Around me, the darkness was thick. I could no longer see without the flares in aid. And suddenly, irrationally, I knew if I stayed in this underground labyrinth for much longer, I would lose my sanity. But that was the mind of an irrational man talking. I leaned against the opposite wall, breathing deeply and slowly to regulate my heartbeat. Spots danced in front of my eyes momentarily as I oxygenated my body rapidly. Slowly, the panic faded, to be replaced by a sense of calm. I didn't get overworked often, but when I did, I tended to edge towards to hysteria. Taking one last deep breath, I straightened and looked around. That's when I realized Ashley was gone. End of part 3. Part 4. Slowly, I stood, scanning the passage for any sign of Ashley. Samantha and Alex were still arguing over the cave carving. They were typically argumentative of identical twins. As Alex drew breath to continue his opinion, I stepped between them, holding my hands up in peace. "Have either of you seen Ashley?" "He's gone," I said, stepping back once I saw that they had ceased fighting and listened to what I said. "No," they said in unison. I sighed in frustration and looked around the cavern. There was no trace of Ashley anywhere. "He couldn't have gone far, not with that massive pack he had strapped to him," Alex said reasonably, possibly sensing the panic that I felt. The entire expedition had had problems from the start. First the dropouts, then Jason, now this. It was like we were cursed or some other superstitious bullshit. I was a born skeptic and proud of it. "He could have only gone forward or back," Samantha said, walking forward to the edge of the light and looking around. "We should split up and—" "No," I said, resolute. "We are not going to split up under any circumstances. If Ashley went back, he'll eventually get out of the cave by himself. So we go forward and hope that stupid prick hasn't done anything reckless," I interjected flatly, turning away from the duo and proceeding into the darkness. After a shared glance, the meaning of which was undecipherable, at least to me, they followed, and so we went. As we progressed, I felt the path lead downwards. It was a marginal slope, undetectable by the naked eye, but I felt myself pushing harder into the rock with each step. Thanks to the extra gravity of descent, it wasn't of any concern to me. Such natural formations were common. We proceeded even further to the depths of the cave, calling out Ashley's name as we went. And then I saw it. It was over to the right, like the others. It was, of course, another carving. I felt sick as I scanned it. The titular Jackal had increased in size yet again. The tentacle appendage hybrid was shorter, as if the beast had pulled it back. The previously held corpse was ominously absent from this scene. I tried not to think about what had happened to it. The pillars with carvings on them had also appeared. As before, the Jackal had the majority of its detail erased, making it little more than an outline. However, there was detail on the edge of the beast this time. I knew the short lines represented skin, apparently leathery and cracked. Then I read the message. It was again 5 words long, and my eyes widened in a flash of shock and fear. "This is your last chance," it read. I stumbled back from the carving in fear, raising my hands in front of me as if it was alive and coming for me. As I hit the back wall, I saw Alex and Samantha close in to study the carving. They seemed unaffected by the ominous message as I had been. I gasped for breath, winded by the sudden impact of the wall against me. I tried to clear my mind, to cut through the mix of panic and fear I now felt at having read the carving which I no longer thought was the work of pranksters. I turned to my left, hoping to see Ashley. Instead, I saw the gateway. It appeared to be a stone arch, hewn from black granite. It followed the contour of the cave precisely, creating a strange effect. Carvings of various things, symbols, letters, and pictures, covered the gateway, which appeared to be seamless without join or cut. I approached it almost unwillingly, feeling my heart rise into my throat as I stared at the ground immediately behind the gateway and onwards. The walls, floor, and roof of the cave from the gateway onward were covered in fine white dust. Alex and Samantha joined me at the edge of the gateway. We were silent, studying the gateway. I looked to the top and saw yet another 5-letter message carved there. The gateway to the Jackal, read the message. And hell with it, I thought. Then I heard the scream. It was Ashley screaming. "We have to get to him," Alex yelled, turning to me. With every fiber of my body, I resisted stepping through the gateway. I knew if we did, terrible things would happen. If I stepped through, I knew sooner or later I would meet the Jackal. But I had to know. About Ashley, the carvings, everything. I had to. So, with a deep breath and trying to still my hands, I made my choice. Together, we stepped through the gateway to Ashley and the dark beast beyond. End of chapter 4. Let me get another drink real quick, and then we'll continue on with chapter 5. What are you guys thinking about the story so far? You liking it? You've been very quiet. You guys just listening? It's pretty interesting, Foxrel. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far myself. This is one I haven't read before. It can be kind of hard to tell if you guys are into it or not when there's like no chat going on, because it can, either mean that you're not paying attention or it means like you're just too busy listening, which is always a good thing for a narration stream. But yeah, I wanted to check in with you guys, make sure you're interested. You're working on typing the stuff out yourself? Oh, any particular reason, Nate? Oh, you mean the recipe stuff. That's what you're typing out. Okay. I was like, why are you typing the story as I narrate it? It's good background noise as you put the work into these mini projects. I'm glad. All right, let's continue your background noise. Boop. Recipe and the mansion renovation, yeah. Chapter 5. The first change I noticed was the ground. The fine white dust was coated on the entire cave, right past the gateway. I didn't know the origin. It didn't appear to be from any sort of mineral or rock I had encountered before. It was strange, but then, given the nature of the rest of the cave, that made it almost normal. The darkness grew progressively thicker as we advanced. I noticed we were running low on flares, about only 20 each. It was a problem, but not one I was particularly concerned about, considering the current predicament we were in. Ashley hadn't made any noise besides his original scream. It concerned me far more than if he had kept screaming. There could be a logical reason for him not screaming. Perhaps he ran deeper into the cave. Perhaps he was conserving his voice. I thought. But I was throwing up improbable answers to cover my fear. My true thought rose unbidden to my mind. What if whatever made him scream stopped him from doing so again? I felt sick. Ahead of us, not even 100 meters from the gateway, was a crossroads, the first such divide in the otherwise linear path. I had appreciated the lack of divergent paths so far because it meant that we didn't have to divide our group, stunted as it was. Appearing now, as it had, seemed like extraordinarily bad luck on our part. Seemed like. That's the key point. Nothing in this god-forsaken cave has been left to chance. Lost in my grim thoughts as I was, I didn't notice the object ahead of us until Alex exclaimed and ran towards it. Startled, I looked up. Alex blocked my direct view of it. All I knew of it, apparently, was that it was quite large. I ran towards it. It was Ashley's pack, ripped and torn. Blood covered it and the immediate area in irregular patterns. Beside me, Alex stepped back tentatively, lost for words. Something attacked him, tore the pack right from his back with incredible force. It must have injured him as well, judging by the blood, I said quietly, surprised at how clinical and calm my assessment of the scene had been, which is absolutely not how I read it. That's it. I'm out. I'm going, Alex said, turning away quickly, but not before I saw the fear in his eyes. He was terrified. Samantha nodded in agreement, turning to leave as well. I didn't try to stop either of them. They would be back. You won't get a foot past the gateway, I called to them, certain that it would prevent them from leaving. I turned back to Ashley's pack slowly and began searching through it quickly, taking only a few items. I hesitated when my hand landed on the flare gun, but I took it and kept it in my hand. I knew from experience against various types of wildlife that it made an effective weapon. If I met anything that wasn't Ashley, I would fire without mercy. I stood and chose the right-hand passageway. I didn't feel scared anymore. In fact, I didn't feel a thing. Adrenaline was coursing through my system, leaving no room for fear or anything else. It grew progressively darker. The darkness was thick and cloying. As a lifetime asthma sufferer, it reminded me of when I needed my inhaler. I knew the flares would soon be useless, regardless of whether they should have been effective. Beside me, I noticed scrawling in the dust, apparently of human origin. That, at least, was no mystery. I glanced at each in turn, almost mechanically, knowing that it couldn't be any worse. It appeared we weren't the first people to stumble into this place. I have seen it, and it blinded me. This is its domain, taller than any human. Suddenly, I stopped. The last was different from the others, in lowercase, and appeared to be freshly written. It cut me. I'm running for my life. Ashley's writing. And then, as if by magic, I heard two things, a scream and a roar. Ashley, the jackal, and they were close. I ran forwards. End of chapter 5. Just in time for Derpy's posture check. Thank you, Derpy. We're getting our back straight and our shoulders back and getting those boobs out just a little bit to give us our good posture. And let's continue with part 6. Actually, I am going to get another drink first. Always important to stay hydrated. Maybe not to the degree that you guys hydrate me, but nonetheless. These streams, though, where I'm narrating, always could see you slouching. Yeah, I definitely was slouching, Derpy, thank you. Gotta avoid that gamer hunch. It's also, if I recall correctly, it's also good for your voice to have good posture. Makes it, like, clearer and richer or something like that. Alright. Part 6. I felt, rather than sensed, that I had breached into a massive cavern. To prove my theory, I impulsively punched the air to my right. If it was still in the claustrophobic cave, my hand would surely be shattered on the wall. As I expected, I hit nothing but the stagnant air of the cave. The flares provided nothing more than a dim glow. I looked at it in horror as the glow faded away, slowly. The fading light represented my last defense against the virulent darkness of the cave, or cave with a capital C as I felt it should be called, and its sole inhabitant, the inhabitant some called the Jackal. The light faded completely. I was alone. The moment I heard the voice. It was flat and terrible and loud. It reverberated around me, seemingly without a source or direction. I spun in the darkness, the cloying, constricting darkness, and felt my heart in my throat. I knew that if I walked backwards, I would no longer find the passage that had led me to the lair of the Jackal. Once you entered this central cavern, there was no leaving it. Just like the carvings promised, I thought. "This is my cave," it bellowed. I screamed and ran. It was a futile gesture. The voice boomed around me, terrifying in its alienness and its flat, expressionless quality. The Jackal was not human, nor was it even some revenant or ghost of a forgotten culture. It was something that had no place in this universe and something that I wished never to see. My heart thundered in my chest and my eyes vibrated. I could no longer even control my own body. I'm a prisoner in my own body. "The other one screamed before I took him," boomed the Jackal, interrupting my thoughts. "Fuck you," I screamed hysterically at the darkness around me. Aw, thank you for following, Retro. I appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the stream. But now, back to our story. It was a petty rebellion. I doubted the Jackal even knew what it meant, but I felt better for it all the same. Around me, the darkness coalesced. It's alive, I thought. I tried to stifle a scream as an image popped into my head. Thousands of millions of bugs crawling over me in the darkness, biting, scratching, and running. And was banished moments later by the Jackal's next terrible oration. "You will remain here forever," it howled. I know that voice, I thought vaguely. After the voice came the footsteps. I sensed, I could both feel the tremors and hear the steps, hundreds of them around me, pounding the floor in a rapid and terrifying rhythm. Rolling thunder, I thought crazily, and laughed. What little sanity I possessed was rapidly being eroded away by the darkness, millions of bugs, rolling thunder, the Jackal and its influence over the cave, and consequently those inside it. I doubted if Ashley was still alive, that Samantha and Alex had escaped. I didn't even think that Karen, Vincent, and Jason had escaped alive. Even as I considered this, the Jackal howled again, the flat voice echoing throughout my dark prison. "They all died, as will you." The Jackal roared in its expressionless tone, creating a queer wavering effect that hurt my ears. My throat burned from the lack of moisture, a headache pounded in my head, and my ears throbbed, strangely in time with the footsteps. "I'm just rolling thunder," I thought, and laughed crazily. Then, as I considered what the Jackal had said, "It can read my thoughts." It was not such a fantastical idea. The Jackal had only ever spoken after I had had a thought. A coincidence? I think not, pardon the pun. I considered the mental connection an idea began to form. I stopped running and emptied my thoughts, banishing the sensory manipulations the Jackal used on me. The footsteps around me intensified, but I heard none of it as I shut down my senses and opened up my mind. Then, exposed without the cloak of my previous panicked thoughts, I felt it. The Jackal's mind. It was a colossal, alien thing, like a structure too gargantuan for the human mind to comprehend. It would dwarf me, swallow my mind whole, and leave me a gibbering wreck if I considered it for too long. It wasn't even natural, let alone human. The thoughts and ideas seemed to be constructed in a fashion that was incomprehensible to the human mind. In a word, the Jackal's presence was dark. As I felt its presence wash over me, I steeled myself and sprung the trap. Instantly, before the beast could retreat, I thought of light, a blinding supernova, more light than any human had ever witnessed, a bright inferno of light. I let the mental image expand in my mind and over onto the Jackal's colossal presence. I guessed that such a creature had never seen light, or if it had spent so long underground, bathed in the darkness which it controlled. Such light, even as an image, would do tremendous harm to it. Considering that the Jackal's mental abilities far outclassed my own, I was right. The instant the supernova image touched the Jackal's presence, a tremendous shriek filled the chamber, immediately overtaking all the phantom footsteps that had so tormented me. I grinned savagely despite the pain the high-pitched squeal caused my ears. That at least sounded vaguely human. It felt empowering to know that I had hurt the Jackal, probably badly. I heard rushing noises around me and opened my eyes. Impossibly, the virulent darkness was retracting around me. I spun wildly in the grip of the receding darkness. As I moved, I glanced around me. I was in a huge chamber, one that extended far into the distance. I saw columns and pillars and carvings, and realized that this really was the Jackal's feeding ground lair that had been the subject of the ominous cave paintings. I had no time to consider that, however, as the final darkness receded. The cave that was lit by light that had no source. My mental light, I thought, exposed its only occupant, and that occupant's slave. Just like that, I saw them. Ashley, the Jackal. End of part 6. So I believe we have one more part. But before we continue that, let's get one more drink and catch up on just a couple chat messages that I think I missed. Derpy, you almost ended up with a hunchback from bad posture, so you like the ability to remind me. Aw, thank you, Derpy. I'm glad you were able to avoid the hunchback fate. That would not have been fun at all. Oh, hi world. I didn't notice you there, but I see you're fishing. All right, let me get a drink and then we'll continue with the last part of the story. And we're moving through this one a lot quicker than I expected to, so I think we'll have time for a second story that I had prepared just in case. Got Sunday's breakfast down alongside a synopsis of the mansion and got the foyer done. I can't wait to see it, Nate. You'll sleep now, Nunes? Alright, you have a good sleep. We do only have one more part. Not that I want to, make you stay up later than you already have. But if you're particularly curious, we are almost done. There will be the VOD though, either way. Chat hug? Of course, Derpy. I love giving you guys hugs. Alright. You honestly spaced out just listening to your voice, so you didn't follow along that much. No worries. But now you can sleep well. Nighty-night. Well, I'm glad it helped you relax before bed. However you guys enjoy the stream, that's good enough for me. Good night, Nunes. Head pats for chat? Certainly, as if I wasn't already giving you guys some. Although head pats certainly are different from face traces. So here you go, Brayden. Brayden, same. Astral is beautiful, and so is her voice. Real life angel. Oh my gosh, hardly, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Derpy agreed. You guys are goofballs. My voice needs a lot of work, but I'm glad it helps some of you just feel relaxed or helps you enjoy it. Retro, you've tried to catch that whale shark in someone else's stream because they do a free sketch for people who do. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's kind of a neat way to do it. Over 70 casts and you didn't get it on your third here. Boom. Aw, Derpy, all the shy emo. Alright, we're almost done, you guys, so get back in your seats and we'll read the finale of this story. I'm curious to see how it ends. Alright. Part 7. I could never truly describe the beast before me. It wasn't because I didn't know the right way to articulate it. I knew exactly what to call it. I simply could not comprehend the jackal. It was as if I were viewing it from the extremities of my peripheral vision. It was blurry and soft and weak because it had no hard angles or edges. No matter how hard I looked, how much I stared, the jackal remained hidden to me, a formless shape hidden under a veil of unreality. The cave paintings, carvings, whatever adjective I attached to them, were truer than I had thought, even after the jackal had turned out to be real. They depicted a blurry, formless jackal, and so it was. Yes, I knew exactly what it was. Indistinct. Ashley, however, was not. I looked at him in horror. His body was covered in blood, flesh, and other less identifiable materials. I could count at least 8 visible wounds and more red lines than I couldn't distinguish from the gore saturating his form. A gaping wound cut across his stomach, revealing intestines, pink and rubbery. Blood flowed from multiple slashes on his arms and legs. He was probably dead, certainly unconscious, but that wasn't the worst of it. His entire right ear had been torn off, clean from his head. Okay, pause for a moment. He just saw intestines revealed from his stomach, but the ear being removed was worse. That's just something that seems very weird to me. Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted, but I just had to with that. Okay. Anyway, bile rose in my throat as I stared at his prostrate form, horrified. The jackal had done this to him. As I thought of the beast before me, I realized that the cavern around me was silent. The jackal's screech, so loud to begin with, had been cut off instantly, some moments previous, unlike the gradual decline that was characteristic in humans. Then again, it isn't and has never resembled anything close to a human. I would wager every possession I own it had no similarity to any creature of this dimension. I can't even begin to consider its true form. Even as I watched, it got infinitely worse. Until Ashley began to move through the air, I hadn't even noticed that he had been airborne. So enthralled had I been by his ravaged body. Slowly, never wavering in speed, Ashley began to recede towards the blurry shape that represented the jackal. I thought back to the carvings in horror. With every sacrifice, it gains form, and so a greater foothold in this dimension. I wanted to rush forward and tear Ashley from the jackal's thrall, but to come within reach of the creature would mean an unspeakable end, one that I would have already faced had I not wounded it with the psychic supernova. Suddenly, Ashley stopped moving, mere meters from the jackal, and I realized with a shock how the jackal had previously communicated through Ashley. Now, I know why I recognized that voice. Even distorted as it had been, Ashley's mouth opened, and it roared from the jackal.
"You will suffer for using the glow against me. Suffer as he did,"
roared the grotesque Ashley jackal hybrid. Evidently, it only knew the light that had hurt it so much as the glow. It didn't matter. The important thing was that it had been hurt, and badly. I probed my mind. No trace of the jackal's presence remained. Apparently, that part of it physically manifested in the virulent darkness, had either been destroyed or banished by my mental counterattack. Even if I meet my death here, beast, I will do my utmost to bring you with me, I responded bravely. The saturating fear and accompanying thoughts which had so crippled me, both mentally and physically, was gone. Now I could see the jackal, regardless of how well I could comprehend it. Much of the terror that I had felt at the hands of it was gone, just like the virulent darkness. Even the voice was less intimidating now that it had a definitive source. It spoke again.
I have consumed many. This one is the last. I will be free from my prison.
The jackal bellowed, drawing Ashley towards him.
No,
I whispered. I sprinted towards them, no matter the cost, even if it were my life or my sanity. I could not allow the jackal to consume Ashley and escape whatever prison it was incarcerated in. Such a beast would wreak unimaginable destruction on the surface. I pulled a silver piece of equipment, the last thing I had taken from Ashley's pack, the flare gun. As the jackal and Ashley came together, I drew and fired. The world exploded around me. The end. I'm not sure how I feel about the ending. It was good enough, but I don't know. It was definitely like they were definitely hinting at the flare gun very early, so I'm not surprised that's what it was. Overall, I enjoyed the story. I definitely think the earlier parts were better than where it eventually ended. I think the beast should have stayed ambiguous. Let me catch up. Oh, doesn't look like you guys were too chatty. Yeah, mostly fishing. But what did you guys think of the story? Actually, you know what? We're gonna take a quick bathroom break for me because I have been hydrating a lot today. And then you guys can tell me what you thought about the story. I'll set y'all up with a quick little ad break, just 3 minutes, and by the time it's done, I should be about back. So let's put you on the Astral train, leave you with the music, and I will get those ads running. I will be right back. You all take a break too if you need it. Alright, everyone. I'm back, and the ad is just about done. Alright, let's get rid of that. We'll go to our next story, and we will bring you guys back in. Another hydrate, Derpy. Well, thank you. I was feeling a little empty. Oh my gosh, 2, Derpy. Why are you bullying me? Alright, 1, and then 2. Ooh, I probably should have refilled my water bottle while I was up there. Might have to do that a little later depending on how much we're drinking. Right, so what'd you guys think overall? Did you like the story? I hope so. Derpy because it's funny. Okay, that's a fair reason. I cannot argue with that. I kind of considered, so right now there's like for this last week leading up to Halloween, there's a people can tag their streams with like Twitch Fright Fest, and it gives them like a chance to be on the front page and be featured for a while. And I kind of considered doing that, but I don't know if I want that. I'd kind of be afraid if a bunch of people showed up all at once. I think it might be overwhelming. But I don't know, maybe I'll do it on Halloween. We'll see. I also don't want to, like, if we did have a big influx of people, I wouldn't want Derpy to feel overwhelmed. I kind of like just our slow, steady growth where we're growing naturally. Lets me get used to things and adjust to my scuff. So I think the next story we'll read tonight, and does seem like it might be a little long, but I think we can get it read. We might go a little bit over on our time, but that's okay. We've done it before. We can do it again. We did it for Keiki. We can do it for a story. All right. Let's get you guys back in your spot, and we will... Oh, I didn't look at the author. We will read The House That Death Forgot by Josh Parker. All right, back in your seats. Boop. And here we go. The House That Death Forgot. Melinda hated driving at night. She did her best to avoid it. Short trips to the store if she just realized she ran out of tampons or had nothing for dinner after getting home. That sort of thing happened now and then, but she did her best not to go out after dark unless someone was coming to pick her up. So, naturally, she found herself on the longest drive of her life tonight, with no moon, few stars, swirling clouds above her, and acres of forest on either side. As so many unpleasant things in her life, this was her father's fault. She hadn't seen or spoken to the bastard in 15 years, but just after falling asleep tonight... No, that was wrong. It would be yesterday by this time. Out of the blue, her phone rang, and his voice was on the other end.
I need you, Melly. Please come now.
He'd said just that, and then the line went dead. The old ass was probably drunk, but he'd never called her before. Not since she was a child and he was still trying to convince her mother to take him back. It felt like she had been dreaming, waking up to hear his voice again after all these years. It sounded like he was crying. His voice sounded just the same as the last time she'd heard it. As though in a dream, she had risen, dressed, and gotten into the car. She was well out of town and halfway to his old place before realizing that she had no way of knowing if he even still lived there. She received updates from her mother from time to time over the years about where he was. The last time she heard from her mother about him was 7 years ago. Had he ever stayed in one place that long? Not to her recollection. She had been 7 when her mother finally had enough and showed him the door. Prior to that, a move had come every few months. The house they had been living in was their longest stay in one place, a full 16 months. It turned into 2 years after that, and then the next house had been the one she left when she moved out on her own. In all that time, she heard from him sporadically at best, and had finally decided it was best to simply forget about him. Until tonight. She had found out, after a 2-hour drive, that she had been right to wonder if he was still in the same place. His last known address was a sketchy apartment in a low-income area of the town she had grown up in. Had he been number 24 or 42? Maybe he was 14. It definitely had a 4. Didn't matter, his name wasn't on any of the buzzers. Bastard. Her drunk of a father had called her at night, all but demanding she come to him for reasons he didn't even feel were important enough to tell her over the phone, and then just expected that she would know where he lived now. In a flurry of rage, she turned and marched back to her car, slamming the door and starting off in the direction she came. She was so angry she didn't even look where she was going and missed her turnoff. The next thing she knew, she was on this lonely stretch of road. Cars were sparse, but she took some comfort in the fact that she would pass one every half hour or so. Her dashboard clock now read 2:27 a.m. She had been driving for more than 5 hours since leaving her house. At night. Every 5 minutes or so, she checked her cell phone. Ever since realizing she was lost, she had checked her phone and found no bars at all. She even stopped at a gas station, closed of course, just sure that there should be some service around here somewhere, but nothing. Take stock of your life, Melly, she thought. You're over 30, you hate your job, you and your mother don't get along, you haven't seen or spoken to your father in just under half of your life, you have no time for your friends or a relationship thanks to the aforementioned job you hate. And now here you are, trapped on a road you've never been on before, at night, and you can't even so much as call AMA, let alone check Google Maps. Smart lady you are. She briefly considered stopping and flagging down the next car that passed. She quickly realized the futility of that plan. Any car on this road would also have no service, so there was nothing for it. She'd have to drive until she saw a house. She'd feel bad for waking someone up, but there was no choice. She needed to find her way back to the main highway. But so far, all that she could see on either side was trees. Mile after mile of trees. No light shining through the boughs, no sign that anyone had ever been here before, except that there was a road and people were obviously still driving on it. There weren't even any road signs other than the mile markers. Had she really found the middle of nowhere? She was just in the middle of this thought when her headlights illuminated something just up the road. A square wooden sign, obviously made by someone other than the government. This wasn't a gas or food or lodging sign, or a mile marker, or a distance to sign. This looked like the kind of signs advertising a private business was nearby. She slowed down to read it. Granny Royce's Roadhouse. Come stay the night at Granny's. She'll take good care of you. Room, board, low prices. Next exit. Her heart sped up. She certainly wasn't interested in spending a night at Granny Royce's, but every business had a phone. At the very least, she'd have a map or know the way back to the highway. She decided she would stop there. She almost missed the turn. Granny Royce's house was buried at the back of a long dirt driveway, secluded amid the trees. She was almost past the little dirt road that led back to it before realizing it was there. She skidded to a stop and turned in. Let me grab a quick drink real quick. All right. Much better. The little house lay ahead. The little house lay ahead. It was 2 stories and looked to have about 8 to 10 rooms. Big for a home, but small for anything announcing room and board. She got closer and looked for a vacancy sign. Nothing. It wasn't that the sign wasn't lit, there was no sign. The porch light was on and the front of the building was illuminated by that light and by her headlights. No signs of any kind. She almost wondered if she had gotten the wrong place, but she was certain that she had seen no other exits between this house and the sign announcing it. She paused in the driveway and took out her cell again. Still no service. She did a quick search for any available wireless signals. To her complete lack of surprise, there were none, not even any secured. There's no one here but me, she thought. At this point, she wouldn't be surprised to find the house empty as well. But the light was on, and this was supposed to be a roadhouse. Someone would be manning the front desk. She got out of the car and headed for the front porch. As she turned around to make sure the lights flashed when she hit the lock button on her fob, she thought she could see a flash of movement in the trees, something human-shaped. She stopped and looked again. Nothing. She decided she imagined it. At the front door, she hesitated. If it really was a roadhouse, then she should be able to just go on in. But what if she got the wrong house? If she tried the door and just walked in, she could find herself arrested out here in buttfuck nowhere. Cautiously, she tried the knob. It turned. She pressed gently on the door. It opened. Relief flooded through her when she saw that she was in a small but tastefully decorated foyer that had obviously been repurposed as an admissions area. A quaint desk with an honest-to-God guest book had been placed in the far right corner, and some chairs had been set out along with magazines on a table. She read the titles briefly: Mademoiselle, Blue Book, new country life, arts and architecture, before turning her attention to the little desk. There wasn't a computer. That was a cute touch. It was like the house was from the past era. A past era. Perhaps old Granny Royce really didn't like modern technology. There was, however, a little bell, just like there would have been in 1929. It wasn't even the round silver kind you slapped to ring. It was a little porcelain handbell. This place was starting to out-cute her. Please let her have a phone, and please let it use the number plan, not 50s exchange. She picked up the bell and gave it a shake. For a while, nothing happened. Then she saw a light come on in the back room, and the shadow of an old woman sprang up on the wall. The shadow moved towards her, and within a few seconds she saw its owner, Granny Royce, who perhaps looked like every grandmother in every storybook ever. "Well, goodness me," she said. "My lands, good morning, dearie. Pardon the tardiness, but it's been a while since we got guests at this hour. Can I take your name, honey?" Granny Royce was smallish, her gray hair tied in a neat bun behind her head, a dress that would have looked like it belonged to a senior citizen in the 20s, and a faded pink sweater. Melinda thought that she looked just like she would have wanted her own grandmother to look like, but her mother's mother had died when she was young, and she'd never met her father's mother. It almost hurt to deny this sweet little woman her business, but nevertheless, she had to get home. "Actually, I'm sorry," she began, "but the fact is I'm lost. I'm not even sure where I am in the direction of—" "Oh, you poor thing," said Granny Royce. "You just sit down and let me fix you some tea, or something. You must be cold." "Really, thank you, but I'm okay," Melinda said gently. "I just need to use the phone if I could, or if you've got a map, even that would be lovely. I really only live a couple hours from here." She trailed off, not knowing if she was even right about that. She easily could have driven those 5+ hours in the wrong direction entirely. "Oh dear," said the little woman sadly. "I'm sorry, honey, but the phone lines are down. As for a map, well, I used to have one, and if I look, I still might, but it's probably quite out of date by now. The highway moved since then, I know that much." Melinda's heart sank. How could her luck get any worse? No phone, cell, or landline, and no map. What could she do? She had to get back home. She was expected to work at 8 a.m. tomorrow. And why were the phone lines down? The weather was coldish but clear. Were they fixing a line nearby? She told Granny Royce the name of her town, but Granny only said, "Believe it or not, I've never heard of that town. What did you say the name was?" She told her again. "No, doesn't ring a bell, I'm sorry. But I could not say which direction it's in. Why don't you stay the night, sweetie? I'll give you a discount for your trouble." "Thank you, that's very kind of you, but I have work tomorrow and I need to get back home. I'm not even sure why I'm out tonight. The only reason I had doesn't seem to matter anymore." "Honey, I wouldn't advise trying to drive back that far tonight," Granny Royce said. "Why, it's almost 3 in the morning, and you've not had any sleep. Maybe the lines will be up in the morning, and you can call your work and let them know you'll be late." "That won't work either," she replied. "I'm the opener. No one will be there." No, I'm sorry. I've really got to leave. I'll head in the other direction until I find the road I was on. At that, Granny Royce's expression, already one of kind concern, seemed to shift somewhat to one of fear. She paused, looking at Melinda as though she wanted to say something else to keep her inside. Finally, she said reluctantly,
"All right, honey, if you're sure. Just you be careful now. Don't speak to nobody until you're back on the road."
That last warning seemed a little silly. After all, what was Melinda, a little girl? She thanked Granny Royce for her kindness and headed back to the car. About halfway to the car, she remembered thinking she saw something moving in the trees. Her eyes scanned both sides of the secluded little cleared area she was in, looking for anything that appeared to be moving on its own rather than being blown by the slight wind. She saw nothing. Satisfied, she headed for her car. All 4 tires were flat. God damn it. She leaned down and saw long slash marks on each tire. Someone in this little slice of Green Acres had slashed her tires in the time it took her to find out that she had no way of contacting anyone tonight. Kids from a local farmhouse, gotta be, she thought grimly. Nothing else to do, so you might as well go out at night and slash tires. She stopped and let the reality sink in. She wasn't going anywhere tonight. She had no choice now. She had to stay the night here until morning, when hopefully the phone lines would be up so she could call someone from work to ask them to go in for her, and then AMA to get her tires dealt with. She sighed and walked back in the house. She could hear Granny Royce as she was walking back to her room. She had already turned off the lights. Resigned to her fate, Melinda rang the little bell again.
"That you, miss?"
she heard Granny Royce call. "Yes, it's me," she answered. "Sorry to be a bother. My name is Melinda Orton. Sorry I never mentioned it before. I guess I will take a room for the night, if the offer's still good."
"Oh, of course it is, dearie,"
said Granny Royce, re-entering the room and turning the lights back on.
"Melinda, oh, that's such a pretty name. Well, let's get you situated. You put your name and arrival time in the book there, and I'll get you a key. All the boarding rooms are on the 2nd floor, and there's only a couple left."
"There are others here?" This was surprising. Not a single car had been in the front lawn when she pulled in.
"Oh, yes, Melinda."
Granny was puttering around in the adjacent room.
"Mr. Norris, young Calvin, there's a few of us here."
She came back out with a key in her hand.
"Just out of curiosity, what made you change your mind?"
She seemed to brighten as she asked the question, as though relieved that Melinda would stay after all. "Oh, it's probably just local kids getting kicks," she said. "But I found my tires slashed." Granny stopped suddenly, her face twisted with concern and worry. Then she resumed, as though nothing was wrong.
"Nothing to be done for it, I suppose,"
she said, with an air of sadness. "Yeah, right, Derpy. This old lady is totally not anything we should be suspicious of." "Well, not until morning at any rate," said Melinda. "Then hopefully the lines will be up."
"Oh,"
said Granny Royce distractedly.
"Yes, hopefully."
She led Melinda up the darkened staircase into an empty, quiet hall, or perhaps not so quiet.
From one end of the hall came the muffled sound of someone crying. Whoever it was crying softly, not with anger or petulance or fear, but with deep sadness. It sounded as if crying was something this person was used to, but they were still unable to stop. "Who is that?" she asked, pointing in the direction of where the crying was coming from. "Oh, pay that no mind, honey," said Granny. "That's just Mr. Norris. He's been like that a while. Older man, you understand. Not all there." She added. She tapped her temple. "I understand," Melinda replied, but wondered privately how an old, out-of-touch man would wind up on at a roadhouse. "Has he been here long?" "A while, I'd say," answered Granny. "Don't really recall how long exactly." "How does he pay for room and board?" "I guess he doesn't drive." "Oh, I guess he doesn't drive," she said to the old woman. "Actually, it doesn't look like anyone else here has a car." Granny started at this, looking up with an almost guilty expression. "Oh, well," she said, "that kind of thing is the business of the guests. I don't ask about such things." She turned the key in the lock of the room and she had led Melinda to, and opened the door. Turning on the light, she showed Melinda the quaint little room. Melinda thought it looked like stepping into the past. She could swear this room would have looked modern in the early 50s at the earliest. Come to think of it, so would the rest of this place, she thought. No wireless service, no computer, that old bell and those magazines. They looked new, but... That thought was cut off as Granny put the key on the nightstand and started in with instructions. "Now, the bathroom is down the hallway there. You'll be sharing with the whole floor, so please bear that in mind if you have to go. There's a shower schedule on the door as well. First come, first serve. You just add your name to the first available line, and that's the order the showers are in. I wouldn't worry about that if I were you, though. I'm sure you'll be first in line. I get up at 6 a.m. sharp every morning and start breakfast. But you come on down whenever you're ready and I'll whip something up for you." "Oh, and one last thing, my dear. I would strongly advise you to not leave the house until sunup. You just never know what could happen out there in the dark." "Of course," she replied. "I'd never go out there in the dark if I didn't have to." She stopped that train of thought right out of the gate. After a few moments, she was alone. Alone without anything to wear to bed and nothing to shower, brush her teeth or hair with in the morning. She sat on the bed and looked out the window, which faced front. Her car still sat where she had left it, the only thing for miles that seemed like part of her world. "And an expensive, overlarge paperweight until I can get a hold of someone," she thought bitterly. Despite the hominess of the room, she felt an unwillingness to rise and shut off the light. Somehow, the thought of going to sleep in this backwards little room seemed unthinkable. So instead, she continued to sit and stare out the window. A figure in black detached itself from the shadows of the trees and made its way to her car. The hell? She jumped up and ran to the window. The figure was tall and seemed to be wearing a cloak made out of night. She saw it as its arm extended. In its hand was a long, jagged dagger. It dragged the dagger across the side of her car, leaving a long gash mark in the paint and metal. "Hey!" she shouted. The figure kept dragging the dagger. She reached for the window to open it. It wouldn't budge. She looked for a lock but couldn't see one. "Hey!" she yelled again. This time, the figure raised its head. She could see the glint of 2 eyes under the hood. The figure raised the dagger, slowly, determinedly. It pointed it straight at her face. She leaped away from the window and ran for the door. A noise on the other side stopped her. Footsteps. Dragging, shambling footsteps. And crying. The sound of a person for whom deep, longing sadness is a way of life. Mr. Norris. She waited. Somehow she just felt she should let the old man pass before she opened the door. Before he got very far, however, she heard other footsteps. These much quicker and lighter, run up the stairs and stop near the door of her room. "Stop it," hissed Granny Royce. "Go back to your room right now. You know better. She can't see you yet. Hopefully she won't have to see you at all. Now you go back in there. You've got no business being out at this hour anyway." What on earth? How could that sweet old woman talk to another human that way? Let alone an old man with a foggy mind. She almost opened the door right then, but somehow her hand stopped, and waited until the shuffling, crying man had made his way back down the hallway. She heard his door open. She opened her own door just in time to see his foot, shod in a well-worn house shoe, slide into his room. The door closed softly after him. That poor man, she thought. But now she was determined to find out what was going on. The punk outside in the Halloween costume slashing up her car, followed by Granny yelling at the old man, made her begin to understand that not all was well here. She went back down to the front desk area, which was completely unlit except for the moonlight and porch light coming through the window. There was, however, a light on near the back room that Granny Royce had emerged from before. Melinda paused to take a look outside the front window. The maniac with the dagger was nowhere to be seen for the moment, but she was now determined that it was he who she had seen moving through the trees. He could have killed me. She strode in the direction of the light, seeing that it was the light to the kitchen. She kept going, expecting to find Granny Royce still puttering about with whatever an old innkeeper did with herself during the early hours of the morning. "Hi, Mew, it's good to see you. I hope you're having a wonderful day." Oh, Nate, you're done with today's catalogs? Nice. I am gonna take myself another hydration real quick, and then we'll continue with our story. Okay. Instead, she found Granny sitting with a young man of about 20. He had dark hair and a scruff of stubble, and was wearing a dark brown corduroy shirt and khakis, along with a pork pie hat. He looked like he was ready to go sell newspapers on the street corner in the 30s. He was quietly sipping tea while Granny was admonishing him from the other end of the table. "Now that was a horrible thing to say," she said. "When I was your age, young men minded their manners." "That's a laugh, talking about my age," muttered the young man with a sneer. "Just how old are you? Do you even remember?" "Calvin Davidson, you are trouble, young man," she hissed back. Neither had noticed Melinda yet. "One of these days you're gonna say something you'll regret." "Oh, come on, Granny. What could I possibly say that will make things worse than they already are?" demanded Calvin. "I mean, look at old Mr. Norris up there. Both of us are, Hello, miss. I didn't know we had anyone else here. He had just seen Melinda. Hi, she said. She had the feeling she'd walked in on an old argument the two of them had had many times, and that did not concern her. Her fear and anger were forgotten for the moment. Calvin had been talking to Granny like a sullen kid, but something about what they were saying seemed wrong. "Can I help you, Melinda?" asked Granny Royce. "Is there something wrong with your room?" That brought her back. "No," she said. "The room is fine, but nothing else is. I mean, what on earth do you even have a roadhouse out here where it seems like no one ever stops? Why are most of the rooms full, even though mine is the only car out there? Why did I hear you talking to Mr. Norris like he was a dog? And why would you want to make sure I didn't see him?" She got no further before Calvin cut her off. "Good Lord, she's not even been here a night and she can see it. Why did you even let her in, Granny? Why don't you just bolt the door? Hell, if I could go take down that sign, don't you think I would have by now? Lord love a duck." "There's something you don't hear many young men say," thought Melinda. She decided to ignore Calvin for the moment, otherwise. "And besides that, there's someone out there. He's the freak who slashed my tires, and he's been out there messing up my car since then. And you can't even call the police? Are you going to tell me you've never had vandals out here before?" There was a long pause in the room. Neither Granny nor Calvin seemed willing to break it. Calvin scratched at his neck. For the first time, Melinda noticed a red slash at his throat, half hidden by his collar. It looked like either a very fresh scar or a slightly healed wound. "Listen, miss, I don't know your name," he finally said. "Melinda," she told him. "Melinda," he repeated. "Melinda, I think you should sit down. I have to tell you something you may find troubling." Melinda did not like how he said that. She also didn't like the way his tone had switched from sullen child to serious adult. He looked several years her junior, but he was talking to her like he was her uncle or her boss. He swallowed a sip of tea and sighed. He then looked her straight in the face and said, "The reason I don't have a car out there is that when I got here, no one my age, no one in my line of work would have owned a car. It would have seemed like an impossible dream." What are you on about?" she asked hesitantly. "I worked in a textile mill," he said. "The mill was shut down by the time I got here. Most businesses were, so I struck out on my own. A drifter looking for what work I could find, and I stopped here. Forever." "Businesses were shut down? I don't understand," Melinda said. "We're having a rough time of it right now, but businesses are mostly staying open." "Not then, they weren't," said Calvin sadly. "I arrived here in 1929. Melinda blinked. Something had exploded behind her eyes. "This place was new then," said Granny. "My man and I had just opened it, and young Mr. Calvin was a sweet young lad of 16. I offered to take him on as hired help over my husband's objections. Well, my husband was a well-meaning man, but he knew how to pinch a penny. 'Twas a year after I took Calvin on that Mr. Royce died. Calvin and I have been here ever since, and every few years or so, someone joins us." Yep, Calvin broke in. Miss Tilly was the first. She was a woman of ill repute who ran here, pregnant and scared that the man who'd run her trade up in New York was gonna find her and kill her. She and that baby. He broke off, now seeming on the point of tears. Right, let's take a minute to catch up on chat a little bit, because I think I'm getting behind. Serial killer grandma? Doesn't look to be the case. I was kind of thinking it was a time loop sort of thing before we got to this, but yeah, that looks the direction it's going. I don't know what the deal with the guy outside is, though. Haunted bed and breakfast? Well, definitely haunted in a sense. First sign of aggression, punch him in the throat. Gosh, Derpy, so violent. Hi, Shadow, it's good to see you. Who you calling Grandma, Cyber? Alright. I don't know what I'm thinking of this story so far. It's definitely intriguing, but I feel like it's, not you, of course. Thank you, Cyber. You don't have kids? Okay, that's good, Shadow. What was I gonna say? Shadow, you threw me off with your You have grandchildren, Cyber? Really? 112 of them? Okay. What are your grandchildren, Cyber? But I don't know, there's something about the way this is written that maybe they give too much detail for inconsequential things, I think. Yeah, not grandma, it's great grandma for Astral. Oh dear, what have I opened? Cyber, your son is going wild. You guys are... You're a bunch of goofballs, you know that? Get back in your seat and we'll continue the story. Ooh. But first, one more drink. It's getting to that time. But we're gonna finish this story. We still have a good chunk of it. All right. I think I'm gonna hold off on the granny voice though, cause that's starting to get to me a little bit. And then, said Granny, there was Mr. Standish. He was a traveling minister. He doesn't travel anymore. Mr. Norris got here in '69, said Calvin. His story is probably the worst. He was a bank robber, you see. Carried a pistol and he didn't like learning how long we'd all been here. He paused, stood, and walked to the kitchen window. He tried to leave on his own, you see. He ain't the first to try it. That was me, actually. I warned him not to try, but he wouldn't listen. But when he got outside, and he met him... Calvin, hissed Granny. We don't talk about this. She's gotta know, said Calvin. There's no point in her finding out slowly. There's still a chance for her, Granny said in a stage whisper. All she has to do is wait until morning. She's not going to wait until morning, said Calvin with some remorse in his voice. No one ever waits until morning. The fact that she came down here is proof enough of that. Besides, what good would that have really done her? Her car is useless. We have no phones here. There was no phone when this place went up, and there won't ever be a phone here. You know that. Okay, everyone stop, Melinda shouted. That's enough. Now, you can't keep me prisoner here, and I have no intention of staying any longer. Only that knife-wielding maniac out there is keeping me from running up the road this minute. Now, I need to know what's really going on here, and I need to know it now. We've been telling you, Calvin said. Granny may not want you to know everything, but you need to. Because you won't be leaving. Oh, we're not trying to keep you prisoner. I don't even care if you run out that door right now, but you'll never leave this house again afterward. Like hell I won't, yelled Melinda. Listen, child, said Granny, rising from her spot on the table. Listen, please. None of us mean you harm, my dear, not even Mr. Norris. There's scant he can do any more, and he knows it. That's why he's up there crying all the time. But we're stuck here, all of us. I hoped there was a chance for you to run for it in the morning, but Calvin's right. There's no guarantee you'd be safe in the morning anyhow. What the hell is wrong with this place? Choked out Melinda. She was beginning to break down. She could feel the tears welling in her eyes. It was about a month after Mr. Royce died, said Calvin, when he came. He was wearing that long black robe and carrying that ridiculous dagger. I saw him when I was trimming the hedges in the back. I told him he needed to get out of here because I didn't like his look. He moved so fast, I never saw it coming, and he got me from here. Calvin touched his neck. To here. He touched his lower abdomen on the opposite side from the neck slash. He began to undo his shirt. Melinda almost vomited. Under his shirt was a long, ugly slash that went deep and was still seeping blood. She could see bone, muscle, and intestines wriggling within that mangled ruin. I died that night, said Calvin. But then I didn't. The next thing I knew, I was being dragged into the house by Granny, and when I woke up, I nearly scared her to death. She was sure that I was gone. The thing is, I was. But I was awake. I could talk, walk, do anything I could while alive. Well, except take any enjoyment or nourishment from food or drink anymore. I still drink that tea because it keeps my skin from turning ash gray. I learned that about 50 years ago. He didn't go away, though, Granny broke in. I went out to deal with him, carrying my axe. Oh my gosh, Granny's got an axe. I love it. I went out to deal with him, carrying my axe. He took my axe and buried it in my back. I won't show you the wound, honey. Calvin shouldn't have shown you his either. No one should have to see it. But that's how he works, Melinda, continued Calvin. He's got that knife, but if you try to use a weapon on him, he just moves like he does and takes it from you. You never stand a chance. He'll use whatever weapon you try to take down with to end you. Mr. Norris learned that the hard way. This is not happening. Melinda was ready to break down. She had to hold it together. She had to get out of here somehow. Nothing was right about this was right. Nothing about it could be real. It was all a dream. Too much didn't make sense. Her father calling her out of the blue, her leaving to go to him without a second thought, getting lost so quickly and so irreversibly. No cell phone service anywhere on this road, this place, everything about it. She was dreaming that had to be it. But if so, She was going to survive this dream. She turned and ran for the stairs. Her purse was still in her room, but she was going to grab it and go. She had enough. Protesting voices began babbling behind her. She cared not one whit. Mr. Norris was waiting at the top of the stairs. Contrary to Granny Royce's description of him, he was not old at all, no more than about 40. But she saw instantly what she meant by not all there. The top half of Mr. Norris's head looked normal, like a reasonably attractive man with dark hair peppered with gray here and there. His eyes, a clear green, were moist with fresh tears. The lower half of his face was a ruin of bone fragments, shredded muscle, and blood. So much blood. His left side was similarly destroyed. His arm hung only a few hanging strings of muscles. His hip was just as much a mess of bone and blood as his face was. He kept his one good hand on the banister as he shuffled towards her. Behind him stood a young woman in a bra and a pair of panties. Her stomach was cut open, and looking out of the wound with bright, intelligent eyes was the mangled remains of a baby. Melinda turned and bolted for the front door. Her hand had just closed around the knob when Calvin rushed up to her, placing his freezing cold hand over hers. "They're not going to hurt you," he said quickly, "but he will. If you step out for so much as a moment, he will kill you, and it will hurt, and it will go on hurting forever. After a while, you learn to function with the pain, but it never goes away." Sobbing, she asked the question she'd been afraid to ask since coming here. "Who is he?" "We don't know," said Granny from behind Calvin. "He just came here, and he won't go away. He likes to watch us and do things to incite us to come out again. As soon as someone does, he hurts them more. But no matter how many times he kills us, we don't die. Believe me when I say we all wish we could." Melinda had had enough of this. She pushed Calvin away and threw open the door. He was standing on the porch. The knife was held out in front of him, just at face level. Melinda ran into him at a rush, the knife puncturing her right eye and its tip sliding on through out the other side. She just managed to see the grinning, pure white face of her killer before everything went black. A few hours later, the house erupted with screams from upstairs as Melinda awoke to a world of pain, the like of which she'd never known. The end. I don't know. I like the idea. I've seen similar things before, but let me catch up on chat first and then we'll talk about it. Oh, Mother Goose, how do you pronounce the last part? Unin? Unin? Mother Goose Unin? Is this storytelling? This is storytelling. We just finished a creepypasta called The House That Death Forgot, and earlier on we read The Cave. I was pretty fond of the first story until the ending, and this one, good idea, but I feel like it needed to be tweaked. It wasn't really scary so much as just not scary so much as just interesting. It's violent. Yeah, it wasn't violent for the first part. How would you like me to call you? Are you okay with Goose? It wasn't violent to begin with, but yeah, it definitely got there because everyone had died in a very brutal way. Let me scroll back so I can catch up on some of the
Messages I might have missed. Is that an attempt to be a grammar shark or just a reaction? Oh. Okay, it was just Nate and Cyber going back and forth. Okay. Derpy. Oh. Can just call me Onion. Okay. Onion will do. I'll try to remember that. Thank you. Speaking of caves, are we ever going to check out our little guy in the longing? It's been long enough. Some stuff has probably unlocked. Yeah, it seemed like most people weren't overly interested in it. It seemed like the fishing was more interesting for people. But I think we could probably check on him when we come back from hiatus after this week is over. Yeah, I've checked on him a couple times since you guys last saw, but yeah, I haven't I haven't checked on him in probably a couple months at this point. I hope he's doing okay. Cyber, you're a funny guy. Hey Astral, guess. Oh my gosh, no more bonking, Cyber. Stop it. Derpy, that guy's more of a checkup on every couple weeks than an ongoing thing. Yeah, for sure. And from the sounds of it, you can keep it going long past when your timer's up. Like, you don't have to wake the king at the timer. You can do other stuff that you want to get done first. Nate, you're the one who acts like some 40-year-old dad, when in reality you're much young. You certainly do. You do have some grandpa vibes sometimes, Nate. Onion, is it weird that you have a kink for blood and dead bodies? I don't think it's weird. Like, depending on how you define weird or strange, stuff like that. If you define it just as, out of the ordinary, then by definition, yeah. But there's definitely people who have those kinks and fetishes. I forgot what the difference between kink and fetish is, but yeah, I don't think it's weird that, obviously you don't want to go acting on stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with liking what you like as long as you don't hurt any people or make, you just need to... Consent is key with all that stuff. Like, there's the whole sadism and masochism side of the BDSM culture, And that's not always involving blood and stuff, but there's definitely other people out there. You're 18, not Pog. 25. Gosh, y'all are just a bunch of youngins. Here I am being granny out here. You keep getting banned from streams because of your kink. Well, is it something where bringing it up kind of randomly like that, a lot of people don't want to have any issues with that sort of talk in their chat, because it puts people in a gray area and no one wants to get banned and stuff, for talking about that stuff. Cyber, can you have a cookie? You sure can. I don't have any, but you can pretend. It's like one of those Neverland cookies. Workout? Hardly anymore. Most you did was a 5-mile jog when you used to work out of your home. Yeah, I need to get back into working out myself also. I'm gonna try to do a workout probably on Tuesday. I've just been so bad about trying to get back into it. I had the habit going for a little while. And then once I fell off the wagon, I just haven't been able to get back on. Derpy, Great Granny Astral. Blake is the... Oh my gosh. That's right. Blake is the granny in these parts. We haven't seen much of her lately because her computer's had some issues, but I'm excited for her to start streaming again. I need to ask her if we're gonna play Fortnite soon. You just do now one hand. Oh my gosh, Cyber just showing off in chat with his one hand stands. Onion, you barely have any friends. I'm sorry, Onion. What is it that you have a hard time with about making friends? Do you just not get people? And forgive the question, but it's, something that does play a role. Is autism a factor? Because that very frequently does make it hard to make friends, depending on how highly you function with it, which, some people are really good at masking their autism or just working with it, but others have a lot harder time. Let's see. New friend unlocked. Best thing to do, Nate, is just to keep it to yourself. Nobody wants to hear stuff like that from strangers, since it seems off-putting. Stuff like that is not a good convo topic. And that is absolutely right. Nate is completely 100% with that. Like, it's your first time in this chat and you've already told us that. And while there was violence and stuff in the story, it wasn't particularly related to anything. It was kind of just voluntary information. And for a lot of people, that is going to be very off-putting and it's going to turn them away. So it'd be a good idea to try to lead in with, you start with more positive, mild conversation. Like, you're going to talk about favorite video games long before you go with, this is my kink. If you ever get to that point, most of your casual friends, you're not going to touch on that territory. I'm pretty comfortable and open about hearing that sort of stuff, so it doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, for the future, you should keep it out of the chat streams unless you're specifically asked or it's relevant to a topic being discussed. Cyber, you want to be like Goku? In what respect? The training? No, you should go for One Punch Man, Cyber. He's got such a doable workout routine. Hi, Cosmic. It's good to see you. I saw your green name pop out, so I had to say hi, but I gotta go back and jump in with some chat. But you're welcome here, of course. Just remember to be mindful it is a public place. Yes, absolutely what Nate said. Everyone thinks you're not a good person. Well, I don't think you're not a good person. I think you're a little socially, what's the word? You're not socially graced. You still have a lot to learn about social etiquette and such, but that doesn't mean you're a bad person. Sorry, Onion, that's okay. You're learning, you're hearing it now, so you can change your behavior going forward, and No one's upset. Thank you for the hydrate. I think I'm just about out of water. Yeah, there's a little bit in there. And then a chat hug from Cyber. Sounds good. All right, let's get that chat hug because you guys definitely deserve it. You made it through a whole week and weekend, and you need to be properly energized to start the new week. Cyber, you're not bald. My gosh, Derpy, such excitement for Cosmic. I feel the same. I have not seen her in VR chat in so long. I need her face traces. I'm jonesing for 'em. I can give you guys face traces, but Cosmic is the one I need to go to when I need the face traces. She's the therapist's therapist. Onion, sorry if you talk too much. You're okay. I enjoy having an active chat. I like to discuss things with you guys and talk about whatever. It's not so much how much you're talking, it's just the content of what you say. You just need to make sure it's appropriate for time and place. And, if you want to, we can help you work on that. Obviously within the limits of what we can do during a stream, but, we'll definitely be patient with you and help you understand, like, maybe some of the social faux pas that are keeping you from making friends. Because it doesn't sound like you're a bad person at all. It sounds like you just have a hard time. Socially awkward, I think would... Yes, why was I blanking on awkward? Like, I don't know. Thank you, Nate. Cosmic, trying to fix this new outfit for Lyria. Don't know how to weight paint. Yeah, I think Brayden was having trouble with weight painting at some point too, I think. I remember him mentioning about it. Nate, you're fine with that? We chit-chat all the time. What else would a chat be for other than to speak? Yeah. Yep, totally. I love seeing you guys active in chat. It makes it easier on me because when there's not a lot going on in chat, sometimes it can be kind of hard to think up stuff to talk about. But when you guys are talking about things, it comes just a lot more naturally. So I always welcome an active chat. Although during the narration streams, it's probably better if I don't get too distracted during, so I can not break the flow, but it happens. I try to find good spots most of the time to break and talk to chat. Oh, you'll be on soon, Cosmic? Nice. Yeah, after stream I'll have to eat some dinner and then hopefully I'll get on with what time is it, by the way? Okay, we're 20 minutes past, but that's all right. I want to catch up with chat. Feel like I don't get to just chill and interact with you guys the same way I do with most of my VR chat streams. As fun as the Cursed 13 has been, having it focused on different video games, it makes it harder to kind of just sit and have those chill just chatting streams. Onion, you keep hearing voices in your head. So that is gonna depends on what you mean by hearing voices. Like, there's definitely an inner monologue that most people do have. And if that's the sort of voice you're hearing, There's nothing wrong with that. If it seems like a more tangible voice that you don't have control of, that's more of an issue, and you should definitely talk to a therapist, psychiatrist, someone in that industry who can help you, because hearing those tangible, substantial voices that you don't have control over, that's never a normal thing for people. And you don't have to say anything, but, if any sort of drug use is at play, that can also factor into things. All right, Cyber, I know you don't mean anything by it, but I'm gonna deny that comment just to keep it away from there. We don't want to touch on that. No worries. But yeah, I would definitely talk to someone about that. Hopefully, wherever you are in the world, hopefully you have access to that sort of mental health care. Honestly, I recommend seeing a therapist at least every once in a great while to everyone, even if it's just to check in. Because, we can go long periods of time without realizing that certain ways that we think or behave, we can think they're normal for most of our lives, and then only later realize, oh, this is something I haven't been having to deal with. We could have been treating this. So I definitely think it's a good idea to go see a therapist every once in a while, especially for younger people, like childhood through adolescence. You're not going to know if the way you're thinking is how everyone thinks. So it's good to be able to talk to a therapist, and they can help identify issues earlier on so you can start changing them before it gets really hard in adulthood. But yeah, Onion, totally go see a professional if you can. You have some control over it. Well, I guess that's probably a positive, but the fact that you don't have complete control over it means there's probably something else at play. Also, obligatory, I'm not a doctor, obviously, I'm just a streamer. When in doubt, always, consult an actual professional in whatever field. What to flip? I don't know what you were referring to. The voices thing. Yeah, we're kind of talking about some more serious stuff. I like that. I like talking with you guys about your problems as much as TOS will let me, at least. How was my weekend? It was a pretty good weekend. Kind of lazy. I didn't do a whole lot. Dram and I got some good quality time together, though, so I'm happy about that. Nate, have you ever gotten that checked out in a hospital? Yeah, like I was saying. Have you gone to carbonize a bug yet? What are you saying, Derpy? Why are we talking about carbonizing bugs? Better not be any crickets being carbonized. Trying to learn the Balkan Rage. What is that, Cyber? Is that like a berserker sort of thing where you just channel all that aggression and use it to commit great acts of strength? Nate, I'd personally say to get that checked out in a hospital to be safe. I know I struggle with auditory hallucinations myself when I am in the range of being very tired or something. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what Nate says. Better safe than sorry about anything, and hearing voices is definitely something that's, a more significant hallucination. Balkan Rage is when you grow your strength and power but drains a lot of stamina. Okay, so yeah, it is kind of like a Berserker Rage in, RPGs and stuff. Cosmic, unhealthy, entrenched neural paths can be hard to change without external help. Yeah. Oh my gosh, spoken like a real trans girl. Of course, we have to have the nya. That's something I deal with. Like, I don't do the nya thing, but I do the little :3 face, and that's kind of a very trans girl thing. So going all in, huh? Oh, yeah, pretty much. Onion, you usually just think that the voices are normal. Well, for you, they are. Like, normal doesn't mean good, though. Like, this is an extreme example, but, if you're walking in a flooded house, pretty much, 24/7, you think that's normal because it is for you. That's your normal. But that doesn't mean it's something you have to live with or something that's good to live with. And yeah, when the voices sound normal, that's also another cue that it's something you should talk to a mental health professional about, because there's a big difference. Like, it's a fine but very firm line between having an auditory hallucination and knowing, oh, this is not normal, I'm hallucinating, something's wrong. There's that, and then there's where we hear things and we just think they're actually normal. There's a big difference between those two. And when you're on that level where it sounds normal and you don't think anything of it, that's a little more problematic. Because when you're still down here and you know there's something wrong, you can go seek help. But if you don't think there's anything wrong, you're not going to seek out that help, and then things can get worse. Remember when you have to fight 3 people at the... Oh my gosh, Cyber, don't go fighting people. You gotta be a peace warrior. Who are you fighting? This concerns me. Yeah, I don't want you fighting people, Cyber. Some random dudes trying to be tough. Do like some, Mr. Miyagi stuff. Only do it in self-defense. Like, fighting for protection. Sometimes we have to. But don't go getting in fights just for posturing. Don't do that. You win. Well, I'm glad you win, Cyber. You may or may not drop kick them. Dang. Yeah, I think oh, yeah. Cyber responded. But we're about half an hour past our time, and it seems like I've finally gotten myself mostly caught up with chat. Nate Okay, so you've seen the PFP, which is just... Oh, the gumball mission. Yeah, I like the gumball battle hammer. Yes, I'm with Cyber. Why? Are you gonna go beat up Cyber, Nate? Hi, Retro. You just been lurking here? Alright. Before I get distracted by you guys again, we're gonna say goodnight here. Just to fit in with the fighting theme. I hope you all had... Although, Onion, are you still in chat? Because I do want to make sure you know, if you're still here, you are always welcome here. You're always welcome to hang out and chat. But I do want you to at least consider... Actually, I'd like you to do more than consider, but, you know, I can't force you to do anything. So I hope you'll at least consider trying to get some mental health help, because I think it'll help you out a lot, and it'll, as a side effect, make it easier for you to make friends as well, I'm guessing. But yeah, you're always welcome here. I hope nothing that was said today bothered you at all. I'm always happy to, you know, talk with you guys about what's going on in your lives. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm not an expert in any of that stuff. Heck, I'm not even an expert in life. Some things, sure, but yeah, I'll just tell you guys how I see things, and you do with that information what you will. Yeah, Cyber, definitely go to sleep. It's so late for you. Nate, good night, everyone. I'm gonna take some times to help the party pass. Yeah, I hope you don't get too much of an upset stomach or anything, Nate. All right. Good night. Oh, buddy, you're here too. Hi, buddy. I hope you've been enjoying the stream. This outfit is so cute, like jeans, skirt, and a cute top. Can't wait to... Ooh, yeah, I can't wait to see. I want to see it, Cosmic. You'll have to show me when it's done. All right. Stop distracting me, you goobers. Let's say goodnight. Let me check real quick to see if we should raid anyone. I feel like I don't usually have a whole lot of people on this late, but let's see. Oh my gosh, Adam Crow is actually streaming, so let's give Adam Crow a raid. I know it's been seeing the hidden Minori pop up whenever you hug chat. Oh, yeah, she's left her mark. All right. This was kind of a longer stream, so if you guys don't want to follow the raid, that's totally fine, but Adam Crow is playing some Brutal Legend, so if you want to go hang out with him, stick around a minute longer and we'll get you over there. But first, good night, How dare you, Admiral? I am trying to say goodbye. No hug for Admiral. Okay. Good night, everyone. I promise you I will take the hydrate as soon as I get the raid done. My water bottle is empty, so I need to... Oh my gosh, Derpy! I rescind my hug, Derpy. Oh my gosh, and a stretch. You guys are too much, okay? Alright. Admiral, did you just call me a bully? You're the one bullying me. Okay, let's stretch real quick, you dorks. Oh, this does feel good. We didn't have any stretch redeems throughout the entire story. The only time I got up was for my bathroom break. So this really does feel good. And we'll get our backs straight, our shoulders back, and our boobs out, so we have our good posture. So let's see here. We care about your health. You care about forcing me to do things. It's a power trip with you all. I know it. Which, I'm actually really excited for the crowd control stuff. I think you guys are gonna have a lot of fun with it. When we played Spooky, I really enjoyed that. Thought stream ended at 8 p.m. Eastern. It was supposed to, but I was a little behind on chat. Take great joy in mildly messing with people. I can tell, Mr. Derp. And that's it's one of the reasons I like having you as my mod. We have to delay. Oh my gosh, you guys stop it right now. We're going to oh, I prefer to not share opinion. One more hour of our No, I am hungry. I need to eat. Okay. Stream ending screen. We're ending. Alright, I love you all. Thank you for helping make it another wonderful stream, as you all always do. Let me get this raid set up while I'm saying goodbye to you all. There should be a snack redeem. You mean like I eat something on stream? Suppose I could do that. I don't know. I'll think about it. What was I doing? Oh yeah, we're gonna raid Adam Crow. Okay. Where's... Buddy getting a last minute fish in. Okay. Raid Adam Crow. Gaming. Then we could keep you fed. Oops, I totally botched that. That is not how you spell gaming. Neither is that. Okay, here we go. Alright. Sending y'all off to Adam Crow. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great week. Remember that we have an altered schedule this week, so check on the Discord announcements to see when we will be streaming this week. We're only going to have 3 streams, so make sure you catch them. I hope all of you eat well, stay hydrated, take care of yourselves and each other, and just go have fun. I love y'all. Bye.